just to meet everybody in person. I think that would be great. But as you know, as Zordon would say, may the power protect you.
Hablando sobre un guión que él hizo bastante interesante que se llama The Order. Es una historia muy interesante porque habla sobre una orden que trata de eliminar la maldad. Quisiera preguntarte cuál fue la inspiración de esta historia, que es de 2016.
All right, David. So the first question will be about a screenplay for a project called The Order.
Okay.
So it's a project that has a very interesting concept about an order that tries to get rid of evil. So we want to know what was the inception of that project and how it came to be.
Well, the inception for that project really started with Karen Ashley. Karen had been doing the convention circuit for a while, and one of the questions that kept cropping up during Q&A sessions is when is the cast going to get together and be together on Power Rangers? And nobody really had an answer for that question. People's schedules were different. There were a lot of logistical issues. So after about almost 10 years of going to conventions and hearing this question over and over, and Karen said, well, I think the only way we're going to get people back together is if we film something ourselves. So she wanted to put together a project that included a lot of the original cast members, including other cast members from different seasons of Power Rangers. And she had a great network of friends because she'd been doing the convention circuit, and she had actually mentioned this in passing to Austin St. John, Jason, the original Red Ranger. And Jason and Austin and I had just recently started doing the convention circuit. This was back in 2014, 2015, something like that. And Austin mentioned to her that, well, David's a writer. Why don't you give David a shout and see what happens? So Karen contacted me, and she pitched me this idea that she wanted to put together a project that had all of her friends in it. And she wanted to know if I would like to be involved. And I said yes. And then we started bouncing ideas back and forth. And one of the first original ideas that we came up with was we wanted to do sort of like an Ocean's 11 heist kind of picture where the actors from Power Rangers would be like this very competent, high-class gang of thieves that would like rip off a billionaire or something like that. But it quickly morphed into a much more of an action-packed situation where we had a team of highly elitely trained individuals who were good at taking care of problems around the world that nobody else wanted to deal with. And that script turned into a schism that happened in the group where it split the group down in half. And then we had all of these highly competent, highly trained people fighting one another. So that's what the project became at that point.
Great answer. Thank you, Master. Bueno, ya que habló sobre los Power Rangers, le doy la palabra a César para que hable sobre este tema, que ya sabemos que es un par.
Ok, bueno, hola a todos. Voy a dar mi pregunta, pero antes quisiera rápidamente decirle a David que es un honor y que estoy súper feliz de hablar con él. Soy fan de los Power Rangers desde niño y mi favorito siempre ha sido el negro.
Muéstrale la puerta.
Sí. Yo soy fan del Power Ranger negro y pues bueno, hablar con David, pues es así, o sea, nunca en mi vida pensé que me iba a tocar este momento. Bueno, mi pregunta va relacionada a Zordon. Quiero que nos cuente con sus propias palabras qué representa para él, si eres un líder, un mentor, un guía, o bueno, con sus propias palabras que nos diga qué es Zordon para él.
Cesar's question is that, first of all, it's an honor for him to meet you because he's a huge fan of the Power Rangers franchise since he was a kid.
I can see that.
And he even mentions that his favorite Ranger is the Black Ranger, hence the hood that he's wearing today.
That's awesome.
So his first question would be about Zordon, about your character. What does Zordon mean to you if he represents a leader, a mentor, a paternal figure? What does he represent for David Phil?
I think Zordon for me represents that sort of encouraging force that everyone needs in their life. He is a benefactor. He is a guide, a teacher. So for me, Zordon is really sort of like is the kind of force for good that most of us would like to have in our lives. I think one of the most interesting things about Zordon is that Zordon does not actually physically help the Power Rangers. If you watch a lot of other superhero shows or like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, for example, there's a point in that show or in the comics when Master Splinter joins the fight. He actually jumps out there and fights the Foot or, confronts Shredder by himself. But Zordon never does that. Zordon is incapable of doing that because he is trapped in a time warp and can only project himself into this reality. And the only way he has to guide the Power Rangers is to encourage them and to tell them over and over that I believe in you and that you can do this. And I think that's the kind of force that everybody needs in their lives. They need somebody to tell them, I believe in you and you can do this. So that's what Zordon means for me.
That's really awesome. So David, now comes my question. Obviously, the Power Rangers has meant a lot for many generations, especially with us kids from the mid-90s to early 2000s. Obviously, the Power Rangers was in its peak in the 2000s, and it was like a behemoth of a phenomenon. Did you, at any point, when they contacted you to play Zordon, did you at any point imagine the scope and the impact that the franchise would have in popular culture?
At the time, no. When I was booked to do the job, I understood the premise right away because I had grown up watching Ultraman and Spectreman and a lot of Japanese import shows that had come to the United States already, including Godzilla and the other kaiju movies. So I understood the premise of this is going to be a show that's going to use half of Japanese footage and the rest of it's going to be shot in America. So I got it right away and I understood what it was. But as far as the longevity of the show, the impact of the show, I didn't have any idea. To me, it was sort of like one of those. It was going to be a Saturday morning cartoon that would probably run for about a year, maybe two, and then it would disappear because that's what was the norm before the internet and before the pop culture explosion happened. I used to watch Saturday morning cartoons or cartoon shows in the afternoon when I got home from school, and they were reruns from shows that had been created in the late 60s and early 70s, and they only made 20 or 25 episodes of those shows, and then they would just run them over and over, and you would just watch them or whatever. So when we did the job, or at least when I did the job, I figured it was going to be one of those shows that they would run maybe 30 episodes and they'd end the season and the Power Rangers would win, and that would be it. And then they would move on to something else. There would be some other Saturday morning cartoon to come along to replace it. But what I didn't take into account, what I was not thinking about at the time, because I was just busy trying to get work and do other things, was I didn't understand the idea of video, of VHS tapes and Blu-ray, all that technology that happened after the show got created that allowed people to watch it over and over again immediately. So, and then once the internet came along and took off, that's when I think, shows like Power Rangers really come into their own because they don't go away. They don't go sit on a shelf in some studio's vault somewhere and gather dust. it's a living show. Even though the episodes that we filmed, are 30 years old now. I mean, people will still watch them today. So, yeah.
Mi siguiente pregunta va relacionada a uno de sus libros. Él tiene una trilogía con un personaje que se llama Lincoln Bright. 3 libros de este personaje. Entonces quiero que nos cuente cómo se inspiró para escribirlos y qué le espera a este personaje, porque si no estoy mal, van 3 libros hasta ahora. Glimpse, otro que se llama Gaunt y el otro Gifts, si no estoy mal.
Okay.
Los libros.
Sí.
All right, David. Now, Cesar's next question is about a book trilogy that features the character of Lincoln Bright.
Sure. So I'm a writer these days, or at least I fancy myself a writer. Luckily enough, I've had a lot of my short stories published, and I wanted to give myself the chance to write novels. And so in 2013, I wrote a short story called Buddy Holly and the Cold, Cold Ground, which is where I introduced the character of Lincoln Bright and his ghostly companion, Tommy Bennett. At the time, I wasn't heavily involved with the Power Rangers convention scene. People had been contacting me on Facebook about coming and doing in conventions, but I really hadn't sort of like jumped in with both feet as far as like going out and meeting people and stuff like that. And so when I came up with the character of Lincoln and he has this ghostly companion, Tommy, I wasn't thinking about anything that was associated with Power Rangers. So, but I know that I've had a number of Power Rangers fans ask me if Tommy is based on Tommy, and I have to tell them no, he's not. But Lincoln Bright, the series of novels about Lincoln Bright it's a supernatural paranormal series, kind of urban horror kind of stuff, where Lincoln is what I call an attuned. He can see and hear things that other people can't. What you and I would call ghosts, he calls glims. And glims are the leftover hate and anger of people that have died and have unresolved issues. And these glims are not they're not phantoms like we've seen in the movies as far as like ghosts. They're not freeform moving vapors or anything like these. These are actually very nasty creatures that begin to pick away at the walls of reality. And if they pick enough of the wall away, they'll open up a space into another dimensional reality where these other creatures that Lincoln calls the dead live, and they will come through and wreak havoc on the real world. So Lincoln has taken it upon himself to try to stop as many of these glims as he can. And then in the first book, he meets a young boy, P.D. Marks, who's autistic. And then Lincoln is surprised to find out that P.D. is just like him. He's in the tuned. He can see and hear these things. So Lincoln becomes sort of like his protector and his guardian at that point. Gaunts, which is the second book, sees Lincoln and P.D.'s mother trying to run away from a group of apocalyptic magicians called the Hermetics, who are trying to open a doorway for the dead to come through because they want to recreate the world in their image. And Gifts is the third book, which details Lincoln's mentor, a very wise and powerful attuned by the name of Evangeline Bailey. And that takes place in 1933 in New Orleans during the Jim Crow era. So and that book, I just got a hard copy of that, and it's 600 pages and it's really thick. So it's really good. So thanks for asking.
And any more Lincoln Bright adventures on the horizon?
Yeah, I'm currently writing the fourth and final book in the series. It's called The Dead, and that will detail the final confrontation between Lincoln and the Hermetics and these monstrous dead things. So, yeah.
That's awesome, David. Hopefully we can get to read the trilogy and wait for the final installment to close down the chapters. ¿Qué preguntas adicionales tienes, Jhon o César?
Antes de decir una mía, creo que es importante que César le diga sobre lo del episodio.
el episodio, ¿cuál es su momento favorito de Zordon?
Sí, pregúntale.
Va, bueno, yo tengo una pregunta, igual regresando a los Power Rangers, saber solamente cuál ha sido su momento favorito de Zordon hasta ahora.
All right. So Cesar's next question. In this case, we're going back to Power Rangers, and he wants to know which one is your favorite moment of Zordon.
It's going to sound really cheesy, and it's kind of disappointing. I mean, there's so many great moments in Power Rangers, but my favorite moment of all time has to be when they first meet Zordon, and Zordon calls them Power Rangers for the first time, and he gives them the power coins, and it happens so fast. There's one moment between Zordon and Jason where all the other characters, Billy and Zach and Trini and Kimberly, they all leave. They're going to exit the command center, and Jason stays there for a moment, and he's looking up at Zordon, and you can see on Jason's face that he's considering that I think I want to do this. I think I want to take on the responsibility of what Zordon is asking us, and I think that's a really great moment. It happens really quick in the first episode, and of course, at the time when they were making it, I'm not really sure that they had a very long plan for where the show was going to go. They were just sort of writing them as they got them and stuff like that. This was long before Marvel and the 10-year plan of making sure that everything fits together, that kind of thing. So, and of course, they were shooting these things really fast and really quickly. So you have this moment between Jason and Zordon, and I think it's an impactful moment, but it's brushed over very quickly. Of course, it's made for 5 and 6 year olds, and they don't have that long of an attention span. So you have to do things as fast as you can. But those are my favorite moments from the show. Yeah.
Beautiful as well, David. Thank you. Yo quiero preguntarte para retroalimentar el videojuego y el último corto. Bueno, para que Jhon también pregunte. Quisiera preguntarte sobre Sub-Zero, porque es algo que se ha destacado mucho en lo que es de corto, y también preguntarte sobre videojuego. ¿Cuál es su experiencia en videojuegos? Eso lo pregunta Andrés y en especial Chronomaster.
This question comes from Andres, who is one of the collaborators on this show, and he's asking about your experiences with the short film Suspect Zero and the video game Chronomaster. How was your experience with those two properties?
They're always fun. I mean, I don't consider myself like an actor or a voice actor anymore. I'm really concentrating on my writing. So you're asking me questions about things that I did so long ago that it's really kind of like talking about a different person or whatever. So and that's fine. But I don't remember a whole lot about Suspect Zero. And Chronomaster was just a lot of fun, being able to work on a video game. And when I left California, I actually worked in the video game industry for a long time, doing voices, doing design work, and I still enjoy playing video games today. So, I mean, getting a chance to see how video games are put together, the kind of work that goes into making sure that people who play these games can have like a really thrilling and enjoying experience is a lot of work. And so I got to see kind of like a peek behind the curtain about how video games are made and what it took to put all of those things together, the hundreds and hundreds of hours that people would work to make those things come together. And then, of course, I got the chance to do voices for video games and then do voice directing for other actors that we would bring in to do voices for the video games. And that was a different aspect to sort of like having an acting career. But I will say that I'm kind of envious of some of my other castmates from the show because the character of Zordon was only filmed one time and then they recycled that footage much like they did the Japanese footage. I never really got a chance to be on set with the guys, except for one time. And that was my main reason for going out to Los Angeles, was to have this sort of like, I'm sorry if my cat's in the way.
No, he's perfect.
That was the kind of experience I was looking for when I went to LA. I wanted to be on a set every day. I wanted to sit on the sidelines and watch how they would change the lenses in the cameras or adjust the lights and see how the directors would block the scenes and that kind of thing. That's the kind of experience I was really looking for, and the one that I didn't really get. So when we did shoot the trailer for The Order, I sort of got a chance to do that. We were shooting in different locations, and I got to see them set up the shots and do all that kind of stuff. So, but again, I wish I'd had more of that experience. I think that would have been a very sort of fulfilling thing. So I'm always telling Karen and Austin, I'm like, man, you guys put in 16-hour days, and that's awesome. I wish I was been able to do that. And they're both like, no, you don't. But hi, yes, you keep bothering me.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Zordon's cat. Hi, say hello.
De hecho, pregúntale pues a David de que ya si es parecido al del cortometraje Meowdy Halloween, no sé si lo sacaría de ahí.
Jhon is asking if that's the cat from Meowdy Halloween. Or if it's a similar one.
Similar one, I guess. Yeah. I think she's only 4 or 5 years old. She's not that old. So.
Gotcha. So you were telling us about your experiences with the video game Chronomaster.
Mm-hmm.
Since you are now more of a writer, you are creating the stories and seeing how the video game industry is now becoming more story and world building based rather than just the gimmicks of the modes and the fighting and the game styles. Would you see yourself writing or at least creating the world building of a video game in the future?
That would be awesome, I think. I mean, one of the reasons I chose paranormal, supernatural, and horror for the Lincoln Bright series is I grew up playing Dungeons and Dragons. I grew up reading a lot of fantasy books, and fantasy, of course, is dependent on world building as far as like creating all of these fantastic worlds that have different cities and different peoples and stuff like that. And so I was very enamored of the idea of fantasy because fantasy for me is all about hope. It's about light triumphing over darkness. And so I was always, I really loved fantasy. But as I got older, as I became an adult, as I moved out of my 30s into my 40s, I didn't see a lot of fantasy reflected in the real world. And I kind of got this idea in my head that fantasy stories are kind of lies, that there are stories that are created to pacify children, to give children this sense of, yeah, things are going to work out. Things are going to be okay in the end. But in real life, you run into many obstacles where things don't always work out. They don't have happy endings. And so I was struggling for a long time with this idea of how can we continue to tell this kind of story? How can you continue to have movies about dragons and unicorns and all of these things when it's very obviously fake, when it doesn't make sense, it doesn't translate to the real world. And so that's one of the reasons why I turned towards this paranormal or supernatural or horrific thing, because that I felt was the way that I could control the environment, and I could try to find hope in that. I could try to find a way to fight against the darkness by creating this horrific thing and then making sure that somebody beat it. And so if I was given the chance to help build a video game that had an element like that. Like if I don't know if you guys have played Elden Ring or any of those type of video games. Those are very fantasy based, but very grim and dark, and there's a lot of horrific things that happen in those. And so if I could find a video game that wanted to marry this sort of like it's the light versus the dark, but there has to be, you know, a marriage of this fantasy plus horror kind of thing. I would love to be able to do something like that. Yeah.
That would be very cool. Imagine a Lincoln Bright video game.
Imagine a Lincoln Bright movie. That would be awesome.
If there was a chance for the Lincoln Bright series to be adapted either in film or TV, who would you see playing the main character?
The character of Lincoln is not an attractive character. He's very skinny and he's got kind of an ugly face. He describes himself as a he doesn't think very highly of himself. He knows that he's ugly and he doesn't put on any sort of like he's not a handsome hero, put it that way. So, I mean, there are a number of actors that I've seen out lately. DJ Qualls comes to mind. DJ is in Supernatural, and he's a fantastic actor. I think he would make a great Lincoln Bright. But there are a couple of other actors out there that I think they have a very interesting look to them, but I wouldn't classify them as like being handsome. So, I mean, if some energetic producer out there ever got it in their head that they wanted to turn the Lincoln Bright books into movies, I mean, hopefully I would get asked if I had any input on who they would be, but yeah, I think that would be awesome. But yeah.
Thanks, David. Listo, ¿qué más preguntas adicionales tienes, Jhon?
Bueno,
o César?
Ya que quedan 9 minutos, creo que aprovechemos con una última pregunta de todos, y es la de César. César, escoja una que en particular que mismo David pueda responderle y cumplir ese sueño más.
Si nos pudiera hablar de sus futuros proyectos, a ver qué se viene y qué pueden esperar.
¿Y cuál es el legado de los Power Rangers? Pregunta.
Ok, no, bueno, a ver, la cambio mejor. ¿Cuál sería el legado de los Power Rangers, en opinión de David?
Okay, David. Cesar's final question would be, for you, what is the legacy left by the Power Rangers franchise?
I think the legacy is that it's inspired several generations of real people to do good in the world. We have met so many people who have told us that because of Power Rangers, they wanted to become emergency medical technicians, EMTs. They wanted to be nurses. They wanted to be doctors, firefighters. They want to serve the community that they live in. They don't just want to live a life where they just kind of move through the world and enjoy things. And not that there's anything wrong with enjoying things, but they want to be of service. They want to be the guys that step out in front of other people to say, it's okay, we'll take care of this. And I think that's the legacy of Power Rangers, is that it's the ability for a simple little TV show with characters that wear primary colors, whether it's red, black, yellow, pink, green, whatever. It inspires these people to step out front and say, I'm going to take this for you. I'm going to shoulder this burden. And I think that's what the legacy of Power Rangers is.
Thanks, David.
Vamos a brindarle un fuerte aplauso a David por eso. Bravo. David.
Andreas, this is Zordon. Teleport to the command center immediately. We need your help.
Well, I'm not sure if I can assign you a color. I think the colors are assigned by the morphing grid. So Zordon didn't really have any sort of like choice about who was going to be what. But based on what you guys are wearing, I would say Jhon is yellow, you're green, and Cesar is black. So I mean, that would be the choice that I would make. But I just wanted to say thanks to you guys for having me on. I would love to get down to visit your country. Colombia is awesome. I think it would be wonderful to visit your capital city and just to meet everybody in person. I think that would be great. But as Zordon would say, may the power protect you.
Wow. Bravo.
Hey, everybody, this is David J. Fielding's Zordon from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. I just wanted to say hi to all of the Power Rangers fans in Colombia. You guys are awesome. You have an amazing country. To see you guys sometime. I'm not sure when that's going to happen. I'm not sure what sort of travel restrictions are still going on or whatever, but hopefully one of these days we'll get down there, and that would be awesome. But hi from Texas to Colombia.
Yes, I be fun. I great work and admire so much. I am sorry, my English not
Don't worry. I understand perfectly. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. God bless you. Go with. You are amazing.
Thanks, guys. Had a
It's an
great
honor.
time.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Bye bye, Davey.
Take care, David.